Hey, it's Greg Stanley. As a new aspect of my automotive passion and hobby, I am a car specialist consultant for RM Sotheby's. If you need assistance consigning a collector car at Amelia Island, Pebble Beach, Auburn, West Palm, or Hershey, email me directly at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com.
This is the Collector Car Podcast, the home for the auto enthusiast. Join Greg Stanley as he applies over 25 years of insights and analytical experience to the collector car market. He will interview the experts and throw in some fun stuff as well.
Hey everyone, it's Greg Stanley with the Collector Car Podcast. Today's going to be an interesting episode, and first off, I'd like to introduce our special guest, Scott Ellsworth. Scott, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Greg?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Scott is a certified public accountant. Actually, if you would, Scott, tell us a little bit about your business.
So I'm a CPA. We assist. We have a niche of small business owners, real estate investors, so the average person. But we do tax and accounting. So we've got clients who are all different businesses, and we'll do their accounting through the tax. And we do a lot of consulting and tax planning.
Okay. That's awesome. And now the reason I wanted you on today is for your tax advice. And now we've known each other for years, and I don't believe you're a car guy. Is that correct?
No, I'm not a big car guy. No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, even still, you're welcome on the show. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about cars just to kick this off. What was your first car you ever owned?
And I'm not a car guy, but it was like it was a Pontiac. I think it was a Pontiac, and I used to get laughed at because I bought it senior year of high school. It had 4 doors,
right?
And they thought it was a grandma's car. But I bought it. It was great. It was a garage kept car from some older lady, and it was $500, and it was practically looked like it was new, but it was a 60. I bought it in '82. It was a '69.
Wow, okay. So financially responsible even at a young age.
Yes, I was.
Okay, well, let's see how financially responsible you are with our next question. What is your dream car?
I think it used to be I always wanted a black Trans Am with a gold eagle.
Oh, yeah, Screaming Chicken, yeah.
Yeah, I always loved the Smoking the Bandit and all that. But I think right now I would like a Tesla. I would like to go to that level. I know that's not probably a classic car kind of answer, but I think I would do that. But I think the biggest thing for me is I like to get in. I don't want to climb down into the car, and I don't want to climb up into the truck. I want something I can just slide into, but I want it to be nice. So
right,
I think that's so. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking. I would think if I had a dream car, just to something be fun. I used to think it would be a Porsche, but I think I would want to go with maybe something like a Tesla.
Well, Teslas are great. We like Teslas on this show. So, yeah, that works out great. Okay. Well, the reason I wanted to have you on today is because a couple months ago at a Barrett-Jackson auction, Rick Hendrick, who owns Hendrick's Motor Racing, the NASCAR team, I think they have like 4 teams, 12 championships, and he also owns a huge automotive dealership network. Last I looked, he has 94 dealerships in the capacity. Wow. Yeah, 94 dealerships. 15 at which are Chevrolet stores, almost 11,000 employees on that side of the business. And then on his motorsport side of the business, he has almost 600 employees. And He has a huge private collection of 210 cars, 58,000 square foot facility that you can only get into by invitation only. So I obviously have not been there. It is on my
You haven't been invited yet? You haven't been invited yet?
No, I'm working on it. Hopefully one day. So he is known for loving Corvettes and then wanting to buy the first serial number of a new Corvette. And he's done it for many years. He has Corvettes with the serial number 1 way back to 1955, 56, 57. A lot of cool stuff. Usually the newer Corvettes ring in at about $1 million each. And it's all donated to a nonprofit charity. And this last one actually sold for $3 million. And so I understand the general thought process on this is, you buy a car for $3 million with a nonprofit, you can write off a certain amount to offset your taxes. But I really just wanted you to kind of go over that aspect of it. Maybe ballpark, how much money do you need to make to where approximately a $3 million write-off makes sense? Just kind of an overview of how that nonprofit charity aspect works from a tax perspective.
Sure. So when you buy anything from an auction, car, or it could be a painting at an auction, right? A lot of people go to silent auctions and buy. Whatever you pay that's above the fair market value of what you're bidding on and what you win is a deduction. So if he bought a car for $3 million, what do you think the value was on that?
It's like 70 grand, 75 grand.
So let's just call it 75 grand. So let's really say for ease of purposes, we do it. So he paid $3,075,000. That was his final bid. He won the auction.
Sure.
So $75,000 is the price of the car. There's no deduction that goes into his collection. The $3 million he would take off on itemized deductions. Now, anymore these days, most people, say an average person, would do standard deduction. Right? We have as a married couple, you have a standard deduction of about $24,000, a little more, and that includes, that standard would encompass all your charitable contributions, your mortgage interest, your real estate taxes, all that kind of stuff. Most people don't get up to 24. 95% of the people probably don't exceed the standard. But for many people, like Mr. Hendricks, and there's some others, it could be Greg, it could be Scott, we'll get above 24 because we give a lot of money away. Hopefully we don't have any debt. That's a whole other different podcast. But all those kind of things, we would have those. So let's say we get itemized, so we can do an itemized deduction. So charitable contributions, which is what the $3 million it becomes, because he's gotten a letter from the charity that says, you were the winning bidder, $3,075,000. The value is $75,000. So your charitable deduction is $3 million. So on his return, he can deduct that, but he can only deduct the contributions for that type of thing are limited to 50% of his income. So let's say, for instance, and actually for that charity, do you know what charity it was?
It was Detroit, like a Detroit hospital. Oh, here we go, Detroit Children's Fund.
So depending on what kind of charity it is, it'll either be 50 or 60%. He has to have that's his maximum deduction that he can take. So if he had $3 million and he only had $4 million of income, right, then he's only going to get to deduct, let's say 50% for round numbers. He'll deduct $2 million of the $3 million this year. The other $1 million carries over to next year. He can carry that forward for 5 years. Now, my guess is Mr. Hendricks makes more than that. So in this case, let's say it's 60%. So for a $3 million deduction, he would have to make $5 million in income. And I'm sure that he makes $5 million in income. So he would get to deduct the whole thing this year. And the nice thing about it is at 37%, because he'd be in a 37% tax bracket, he's going to get $1.1 million in taxes back.
Really? Wow.
So the government essentially paid for $1,110,000 of that $3 million purchase.
Does that mean he could have gone even higher, or would that be the max because of his income?
Well, at that point for the income, if he had made $5 million worth of income and 60%, that would have given him a $3 million maximum deduction. He would have just carried the rest over. If he had bought it for $4 million, or if he bought it for $6 million, then his income to fully take the deduction this year would be $10 million.
What is the amount that went to the Detroit Children's Fund instead of going to the IRS?
No, the whole amount went to the Children's Fund.
Okay.
It doesn't affect his deductions. They still got the $3,075,000. On his tax return, he's going to owe on it, if he didn't do this deal, if he didn't make this grandiose purchase, very generous, he would have paid $3 million in taxes, let's say.
Yep.
Okay, because he wouldn't have been paying that. If he had $5 million, if that was his income, so $5 million times 37%, he probably was paying more like $1.9 million in tax.
Okay,
it's $5 million bucks, right?
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So this time, now we're going to get $1.1 million of a tax. So he gets a $3 million tax deduction, which is equal to $1.1 million. So he cut his tax bill from $1.85 to $750,000.
Okay, that's the number I'm looking for. Okay, so that
Yep.
difference, that netted a difference that didn't go to the IRS about 1.1 or so?
About $1.1 million.
Okay, interesting. Okay, my head's swimming
So
with
he's
this stuff.
Yeah, but the nice thing is the charity still got their whole $3,075,000. But the IRS says, and when I say IRS, it's the Congress, I guess. They're the ones that really make the law. They're basically saying, hey, we appreciate you giving that money to the children's home. So we're going to give you a deduction for that. And essentially, we're going to let you save writing us a check for $1.1 million. We're going to save you that much money.
Right. Okay.
He saved $1.1 million, which the government essentially paid for. Now you can all argue that. We can argue that all day long, but who really pays it? But the government is giving him $1.1 million off his tax bill.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess the gap I'm missing here is that lucrative enough for him? Do you feel doing that $3 million, or maybe if he could have got it for 1.5? Is that really that lucrative for big businesses to do that type of stuff?
His net effect is that it essentially cost him the $3,075,000 car. Essentially cost him $2 million net.
Right. Yep.
So now, was it a good buy to buy a $75,000 car for $2 million?
Right.
No, not very financially the greatest thing, but he's gonna give the money away anyway, and that's why I've always talked to people is when you make that kind of a money, sort of. I think he would even argue how much is enough.
Right.
Does he really need it? He doesn't. He takes care of. I assume he takes good care of his employees. Got successful businesses. He has lots of extra money with which he's been given stewardship over, and so he gave $3 million. I mean, I don't know who was bidding against him,
right?
But he gave that home $3 million. In return, he got a $75,000 car, which he loves because he wants that kind of a car for his collection.
So does he have to take the complete amount if he can take it? Does he have to take it 1 year, or can he spread it out over multiple years?
No, he would take it. If you could take it, you would take it. But if anything left over would carry forward. If you're prohibited from taking part of it, then it carries over the next year. But you have to take it. If I pay it this year, I got to put it on my return this year. I can't just say, no, I'm going to put it on next year.
Okay. Is there any difference if it were Rick Hendrick, the person, versus Hendrick Motorsports, the organization, doing the buying?
Okay, so actually the whole thing we have talked about, it's been Rick Hendrick's personal.
Yep.
If Rick Hendrick's Motorsports is a C corporation, and this is a little bit trickier, so there's individuals or single-member LLC. So Greg Stanley has a podcast, and he's got an LLC and he's single member. That's one structure. One is an S corporation, which your S corporation and your single-member LLC or your partnership organization, all the income flows to your personal tax return. So
Okay.
it's the same. So it is the same. But if Hendrick's Motorsport is a C corporation, and he may have a complicated structure with his net worth being so high, which we'll assume it is, then his structure is going to be more complicated, and probably there may be a C corporation mixed in. A C corporation is like you owning stock in Procter & Gamble. If Procter & Gamble gives away money, their tax rate is 21%.
Okay.
So a C corporation's tax rate is a flat 21% in the U.S. ever since the end of 2017. If his corporation did it, he only gets 21% of that $3 million as a tax savings. So that's about $600,000 instead of $1.1 million, right?
Yeah.
He would get less deduction through Hendrick's Motorsports, okay, than he would if he did it personally.
Interesting. Okay. I was just trying to figure out if there was some angle where you maximize even more, but it sounds like...
Well, so the other argument that what you would try to do is if I was Hendrick Motorsports, what I would probably do, if I could, I'm not saying you could, and I'd have to look, is there a way that I can get whatever I'm doing as advertising and not charitable contribution?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, under this scenario, I think it would be hard pressed to call it anything but a charitable contribution. Now, if Hendrick Motorsports sponsored advertising, right, sponsored the auction and paid $3 million to sponsor the auction, then the deduction would be $3 million.
Right, because it would be a business total write-off, right? 100%?
Right.
Minus the value of the car?
Correct. So if they got the car as part of their sponsorship, then they're good. But if he just bid on it, he was bidding on an auction, then it's not advertising. So, but either way, he'd be better off if he was a C corp to have done it personally, because his tax write-off would have been better, $1,000,001 compared to $600. So he'd have saved $500,000 in taxes by doing it personally versus the company doing it. If it's a C corp, complicated with all the structures.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Is there anything I'm missing from this scenario? I'm trying to make sense of paying $3 million for a car, and I think you've helped us out a great deal. Anything else that you'd like to add about this?
No, I think it's awesome that he did it, and it's great that he can do it, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for your time today, Scott. What's the best way our listeners can learn more about you or your firm?
They can go to our website, www.ellsworth, ELLSWORTH, Ellsworth CPA, that's catpaulapple.com, ellsworthcpa.com, and they can find out about us.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for your time today, Scott.
Hey, thanks, Greg.
Thanks for listening to the Collector Car Podcast. Don't forget to give us a nice rating on iTunes and be sure to follow us on Instagram and everywhere else at the Collector Car Podcast.